On the surface, most people agree that racism is wrong and shouldn't be celebrated. This may be because the idea makes so much sense that people have to agree to it out of fear of losing their sense of life. This not only indicates people's ability to recognize the natural right and wrong in society, it also proves that, with so many accusations of hidden and disguised racism, a show of admission to this basic social logic can and has been faked before. That being said, the idea of racism can be traced to an original primal fear that these differences in color, features, and culture represent a different species from the observer. This has forced me to acknowledge racism for what it actually is. Speciesism. Speciesism, in terms of social psychology, is the misinterpretation of race, ethnicity, and culture as an intense survival tactic. People with this kind of thinking see others as animals. Not able to explain a reason for these differences, they assume they represent some sort of existential claim. To say it better, racism/speciesism is the competition to prove certain features are best fit for survival and therefore are at the top of some basic proverbial food chain. With so much history and pain caused by this competition, it is extremely difficult to bridge the gap of fear that separates those still affected by a specious mindset. Imagine how terrifying it would be to develop trust with other races and establish relationships you depend on, only to find out that there is still some secret code or channel of communication claiming you're just an animal to people you genuinely respect. It would be a chilling departure from reality that could only scar your interpretation of race relations. This is a very irrational fear caused by a lack of information on the subject. This might sound stupid and unhelpful at first, but so is racism. While it is true that most evolution across nature is derived from whatever habits an animal or group of animals chose as a survival tactic, this does not extend as far as my having brown skin, meaning I have telepathy and can communicate with actors on TV through some sort of waveband or channel similar to that of how dolphins communicate. At least it wouldn't be because of the color of my skin. My point is that our differences are not so far apart that I can't say the same words or understand the same concepts as you. How humans, in the theory of evolution, evolved to have such a high amount of similarity despite still being noticeably different is what I believe to be one of the gifts that proves our freedom and choice in this existence. So why do people have different skin colors? Well, if you look at life from an evolutionary standpoint, humans would have made it for their offspring's best chance of survival. Looking at cultural norms, environmental challenges, and other limiting factors, a partner would have been most desirable if their traits could get them further into the social pool. As presented the correct way by Bill Nye in this video.
Now here's the same map of the same continent with just one color. And it turns out that everybody on Earth is descended from people that live here in Africa. And then as groups of us moved around the world, the color of our skin had to change. And here's why. Our skin is where we make vitamin D. If you don't get enough ultraviolet, you don't get enough vitamin D. But if you get too much ultraviolet, then you break down your folates. You have to have it in perfect balance. And because the ultraviolet varies, the color of our skin varies. And that's it, everybody.
Skin tone was determined by the amount of ultraviolet ray exposure in a given environment. People in environments closer to the equator would have had to mate towards surviving in such hot conditions. Melanin is the dark pigment occurring in the hair, eye color, and skin. It evolved as a way to repel sunlight and prevent diseases and illnesses caused by an overabundance of vitamin D, which comes from an exposure to UV rays. In extremely hot areas, the darker your skin, the better comfort you had, and the longer you could last and contribute to the daily pool for resources and effort, making you highly desired in the mating tier. The inverse could be said in colder environments, with less ultraviolet exposure, as there are also diseases and illnesses caused by a deficiency of vitamin D, which having too much melanin in a low UV environment would repel. This ultraviolet skin response can be observed in a single lifetime by measuring the change in skin tone a person goes through when working outside in the heat versus when they're working in a building all day. I myself have been both extremely dark and extremely pale. So much of a change in skin tone in such a short time as evidence, combined with decades and centuries of ultraviolet adaptation, explains why it takes time to see a full-blown change of skin color from generation to generation. An explanation for color out of the way, the same argument can be used for facial features, such as nose shape. In environments of high altitude, there is more oxygen, promoting mating towards smaller nasal cavities, which better regulate oxygen intake over time. The opposite can be said for low altitude environments. Varying environmental challenges promoted physical features such as general height, hair color/texture, and ear shape, etc. Okay, hey guys, I was just rewatching the video and I noticed I made a mistake. When I said in high altitude environments there was more oxygen, I actually had it backwards. I apologize for that. It's actually the other way around. There's lower pressure in high altitude environments, which causes less oxygen saturation. And also, I wanted to further build on an argument that I kind of didn't make in the video itself. Our genes, which is, what's kind of determining the shape of our noses and our eyes and our skin and all that stuff. Our genes aren't just computer programs that are magically deciding what we are before it knows what it's responding to. Our genes are nothing more than our biological program that determines what the best response to the external environment is. You're not just gonna be this because something chose for you to be it. You're gonna be that if it's the best response to the environment. Your genes are not any more determining what to do in this situation than you are responding to it. Okay, so just wanted to make that clear. I'll see you guys later. With competition added from cultural desires, race can be seen as nothing more useful than the environment is challenging. Even then, with our collective awareness evolved, it has become much easier to mate for reasons other than basic survival. Now we're more focused on the economic and social status aspects of mating. Ethnicity has always had an excessive association with culture. That is, if you were a certain race, you were expected to participate in the recognized culture for that race. Not only by other races, but by members of your own ethnicity. Arguments for why each member of every race should maintain the cultural practices and heritage of their ancestors extend as far as the claim that it dead ends and dismisses the lives, stories, and traditions that led to this point in history. While I agree to an extent, I think it should be noted that dismissing the conditions of today would be to let our ancestors down, as all the war, pain, and suffering they went through to make race relations as good as they have an opportunity to be today would have been for nothing. Remember, our ancestors lived their lives in their environment, which is ultimately where culture is determined. A white man born or raised in the areas highly associated with African American culture would adopt the behaviors and dialects associated with that area. Same thing for a black man born in Japan or a Hispanic man born in a suburban country. Culture is less about skin color and more about the practices and traditions healthy for your current environment. So ignoring the realization that our differences shouldn't separate our culture is a failure to those who came before us. Our culture should not only celebrate and recognize the past, but also represent the present and our desired future as a whole diverse community. In today's society, we are living and loving around a variety of people and culture. Over time, we'll naturally develop a heritage that acknowledges how far we've come as a society and how capable we are of relating to and protecting one another as a giant family. Thank you so much for watching my video. I hope you learned something. Please leave a comment for anything you'd like to discuss or any questions you have, and I'll take the time out of my whatever this is to check that out and respond. I love you.
We're all one species.